Bring it.
How could you not like the coffee guy?
Yeah. That's right. It's coffee deliveries. Satisfying thing to people. By the way, I don't know if you know this, but every time somebody comes on, then Will claims that whatever intro music he selects is inspired by the guest. I don't know if it's true or not.
So this is inspired by Matti, eh?
Yeah, I tried.
I like it. Yeah. I'd use this in a video.
Do you feel like it's fitting?
Yeah.
It's fitting? It's suitable?
It's really chill vibes.
Although I feel like the music that I use in my videos, which is probably what you're basing it off of, is probably a little different than I actually like to listen to. You know, like you kind of it's like, I don't know if you have this, but like I think everybody on YouTube, especially, you end up developing a little bit of like a personality that's you, but it's maybe exaggerated or slightly different.
Absolutely.
And it's probably the same with music, you know. And you're also, you know, at the mercy of the
availability.
Yeah, exactly.
Licenses.
Yeah.
And whatever else. And there's also certain music that just, oh, by the way, Maddie's in the house today. Bring up the YouTube channel. I mean, we got to do it the right way. We got to get the right shout out. There we go. Look at this.
Thanks, guys.
Another day, another guest. Very excited for this one. We've never met before.
This is the first time.
It's happening right here.
This is it.
Of all places. And we get to have a conversation. Who knows what might happen? Who knows where we might go? There's so much to discuss as we get to know one another.
I'm already mind blown just by this whole space. Right. I feel like the viewers out there don't quite understand the space. The space is nuts.
When it first started, I think, like yourself, there were a lot of people who assumed it was some sort of trickery or some sort of green screen effect or something. But you know, currently for this recording, we're at one end of the space.
Yep.
You have had the pleasure of walking all the way to the other end to go to the bathroom, which
took about an hour.
Couldn't be further away. But yeah, I mean, that's one way to get a real sense of the scale of it, is to actually be here. It's a pretty wild space, that's for sure. I'm glad it exists. You asked me if it was worth it. I had a hard time answering that question.
Yeah, but I mean, like I said, this is an experience. Seeing this, like I don't think I've ever seen something like this. Like, it does feel like I'm on like a movie set, like a legit thing. And when I've seen your stuff, I thought that it was not green screen, but that you're just being really clever with the lighting and making it look bigger than it actually is. But this is way bigger than I thought it was.
Right. So lighting and wide angle lenses. And of course yourself coming from the camera background, you're like, it's got to be some camera tricks.
He's doing some sort of like really smart fade. Like, I see you fading the lights, you know, in the back. I'm like, you know, it's to play off that it goes off into infinity. Meanwhile, it actually goes off into infinity.
Yeah, almost.
Almost.
Yeah.
It's close.
About as big as I've seen in real life. But anyway, it was a massive undertaking.
I believe it.
It was a really huge job. And there it is before. That was a very early, Will's showing a video right now of a very early recording done in the space before.
Was this the first time you guys showed it, kind of?
Yeah.
I feel like I remember this, and I was like, what? Yeah, because what is this thing?
We were talking about sound, and in this recording, there was absolutely no sound treatment. So the echo, the
was nuts.
I mean, it's hard to even.
Okay, there you go. Perfect timing.
Will just turned it up. It was like nothing I had ever experienced. It was like multiple reflections, right? You get the initial reflection, and that would hit the other parallel wall, and then you get the other reflection back. So it created a really unique environment.
I honestly thought you just rented out some space to do this. I was like, oh, he's really, you know, putting in a lot of effort into this video, rented out this big space. It's like some sort of movie set thing. I was like, you know, epic. It looks insane. And then it just kept coming up on in your videos. I was like,
right.
Oh, wait, that's just his space.
He was crazy enough to actually build that?
Yeah.
What is wrong with this person?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's just weird. And I don't know, maybe you've had a similar experience. You have some intuition about progressing like anybody would in whatever it is that you happen to be working on, but you're not necessarily certain about the right moves in your path towards progression. Progression's healthy. Like, you want to progress.
Yeah.
but also there's landmines along the way. There are ways to do the opposite just via your intent
Yeah.
to progress that you could screw everything up. So, what is progression for you?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Yeah, I'm exactly the same. I'm kind of like my brain. I sometimes describe it as like it's like efficiency oriented. Like I'm always thinking about how to be the most efficient at whatever I'm doing, and that a lot of that is like becoming better and better. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Where like you might be thinking you're progressing, but actually you're not. So like in my channel, for example, I could have taken, I started out as a filmmaker, was freelancing, got a bunch of gear, blah blah blah, and I was really good at I think making things look good, like making it look beautiful. And I think with my channel, I could have gone down that path even more and just made it look more and more insane and filmed on the most like, get an Airy Alexa and film everything on Alexa and just the most beautiful thing I could ever get from a camera. But I've kind of gone the opposite, I think, on my channel where like I've stopped caring about some of the filmmaker stuff and just, how can I make this a fun experience for the viewers, a positive experience that like, and a lot of that is, I think, storytelling in the end for me. So I'm like constantly thinking about how is the audience perceiving this experience or this storyline? Is it boring? Is it interesting? And so with that, I'm basically a one-man or two-man crew with my brother most of the time. Have a manager who helps me out too, but like in terms of filming the videos, it's usually just me. And this last year, my brother came from Finland to help me out, and so I've just kind of like dropped a lot of that. Like I don't need to use cinema cameras all the time. I'll just use something that looks high quality, but
You say this while we're watching a video with like a beautiful shot traveling through.
So
it's a mix. It's some kind of a mix.
So here, you guys are watching like FPV. Do you know FPV drones?
Absolutely, yeah.
So like I've gotten like heavy into FPV drone flying. Like later in this video, you'll probably see some other shots too. Like FPV is insane, and so like I like FPV drones because it gives me a different way of storytelling that most people can't get these shots and tell this story. And so that's why I spend a lot of time. And then in that, I still want the best quality. So I'll figure out like kind of the happy medium of like, okay, I'm not going to be putting on a Sony A7S or an A1 on the FPV, but okay, what's the best way? So I have like this like stupid setup of a DJI drone and then like this like 3D printed mount to have a GoPro on there. And so the GoPro is recording the actual footage that I'm using. And then I run through RealSteady, which is like a stabilizing app. And like, so I'll take those, those steps to get the best image. But
I understand.
There's a limit.
I completely understand what you're saying. That where the gear can actually get in the way,
exactly,
or where the mandate can change, or you can obsess over some technical detail that actually blocks or inhibits the progression of getting the video done.
Yeah,
and because that's another thing that I constantly am aware of is that you're trying to make a thing and post a thing, and you're probably not going to spend a year on it.
Nope. I spend like a day, 2 usually.
Okay, day 2. It's some arbitrary, maybe for some it's a week, or maybe for some it's 2 hours. That's it. Whatever I got in 2 hours. That's kind of that's part of the strangeness of this space is that we're kind of chucking all this content into this machine with this variety of parameters around how we make it and what our own personal rules are for what it should be. And then
a million people, 10 million. How many subscribers do you have? Like an insane amount. That many people's expectations of what they're expecting from your videos also on top of that.
Absolutely. And it can be, there is, I think, and I don't remember, maybe we were talking about this before we started. I think that one of the ways in which, one of the motivators for me is experimentation, is to not necessarily take that rule set that I just described and then force it upon yourself permanently and forever, no matter what. Because I realize that like my channel is not the most creative endeavor, but you're still making something. You're
Yeah.
still making decisions and publishing something. And there it seems to be a key element of the process to consider your decisions, to consider them, change them, alter them. And for me, historically, experimentation has been a nice reset.
Yeah.
But it's not guaranteed.
No.
It sometimes comes with the biggest stings attached to it too.
Yeah.
Like learning, failing.
But I think that's I don't know. I think there's probably a certain type of personality required to do YouTube. And I think a lot of us are this, like, you always want to be going a little bit forwards. And so, you got to be going forwards in some direction. And like for me, I think I kind of gave myself the leeway that once I hit 1 million subs, then I'm going to, give myself the opportunity to go in kind of any direction I want. So I have a lot more. Now I feel like I've kind of achieved what I've wanted to do on YouTube already, and now it's more like my like what do I want to do, and so I'm gonna experiment a little bit more. I started off as a travel and teaching filmmaking tutorials channel, and now if you look at my channel, there's like almost no tutorials, the new videos. There's a lot of like trying out new gear and stuff like that, but I think I have a lot less expectations on myself of like, what do I need to do to keep the machine going? And if I experiment and things, fall apart, that's okay. I think I'm curious, like for you, for me at least, I started in filmmaking, freelancing, and then I was like, I saw where it was going, and I was like, I don't think that's where I want to go. What's the next thing? What's the next iteration of this?
Sure.
And so I was like, YouTube, build my own thing. And then I got that going. I was like, oh, sick. This is like, it took off way faster than I ever imagined. Financially, it was working out super well. And then I'm already starting to, like 5 years in, or 4.5 years into this, I'm like, what's the next iteration? And so I'm like thinking about, what are the next companies I can start, maybe around YouTube or using the platform? And I'm curious I feel like you and MKBHD, like you guys have been so consistent for so long. Like what keeps it going? It's
insanity. It's obviously insanity.
No, I mean that in a positive, like
Yeah.
you guys, like there's so many channels that just fall apart at some point. Maybe they go through a lull and the algorithm just isn't working for their content anymore. And then it gets really desperate and they start making really like not their usual content. And then just kind of, you got mental health issues thrown in there and it just falls apart really quickly. I'm sure, it's true, right?
Just a little sprinkle of mental health.
It's just
issues.
burning out and stuff,
let me
just working too hard, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so the mental health component, isn't it just part of it?
Yeah.
Is there any way to do this without it having an impact on your mental health?
I don't think so. I think it's always going to be like a thing that you're dealing with for sure.
And maybe that ingredient or that sprinkle, maybe that's an indicator for you. Maybe that's a warning sign. Like, maybe you shouldn't do this forever. And then the problem is, I think, or one of the hard things to reconcile is that so many other people want to do it that you would be crazy to have some issue with having success. And you're feeling the pressure of that too. Like, wait, this is there's not a lot of sympathy for that.
That's I don't know if juxtaposition is the right word, but like it feels dumb to just be like, hey, I built this channel with 1 million subs. And, hey, by the way, guys, this is my last video. Like, peace out. I'm done. I'm going to go do something else. Like that feels stupid. Or, like even break it down into more day to day. It's like a brand comes at you with a lot of money. That's way more money than before YouTube or in the early days of YouTube that you're like, this is nuts. And to say no to that, it's like, well, that's just dumb. Like, I'm an idiot.
Speaking,
yeah, historically, that's stupid,
right. Yeah.
And so I think that's where it gets really hard. And like, I'm sure you know it just as well as anybody that like money only makes a difference up to a certain point. And then it's just like, okay. Like at least for me, I felt like when I started doing YouTube, I had this like crazy goal of getting 100,000 in the first year. And then I think I put a goal of $8,000 like passive income a month, and then some view goal. I think it was 1 million views or something like that, which don't quite line up. But I think I ended up with like 250,000 after the first year, and I was making more than $8,000 a month already after like 6 months, more than 1 million views. And so like those all got smashed, and that was so exciting that I was like, holy crap, this is actually like, this is working, like no way, you know? And then the second year, I think, is where, for me at least, I was like, okay, like, wow, this like financially also is quite lucrative and crazy. And so like it was like the taking off of the channel, people actually like my stuff. And then it was like, oh wow, this is also lucrative. And then third year, it's kind of like, okay, same. Fourth year, it's like, okay, what am I doing here? You know, like there's what's carrying me now? Like, because more subscribers doesn't really mean much at this point. More money doesn't really mean much at this point. So what does mean much? Sorry, this is getting a little philosophical. Maybe what's the point of life? Can you answer that one for me?
This show has a history of getting there way too quickly where we are right now. You know,
maybe it's your personality or like
I think it might be the room or it's possibly the couch. I'm not sure. I think a big part of it is the fact that the people that I've had on here, there's so much shared experience.
Yeah.
And so therefore it's like we can skip some of the preamble leading up to, okay, you know what's what, and here's where I'm at, kind of thing. And there's a lot of people who are in the same boat, and I think a big part of it is just the newness of the whole thing.
Yep.
That it hasn't really been a profession that you can look to the older generations for advice, where you're the product.
Yep.
I mean, there has always been show business and there's always been cameras around, or not always, but for a while now. But this is a little bit different in the sense that you're also the production company and you're the publicist and you're the marketing team.
You're everything,
the
right?
Salesperson.
Take away you from your channel and like the channel dies, right?
Right.
Like if you just wanted to quit right now, I'm sure you could do some sort of transition thing, maybe. But
that's
like
what that topic has also come up on the show, because we will all get old, right? Like that's going to happen. And what are these properties after that? Because you have shows and sports and sports teams, and then you have brands, and like some things persist and others go away. I don't know if I've covered this or talked about this on this show before, but just this idea around how most of the media we interact with changes throughout our own lives.
Yeah.
That we don't watch the same things, and shows that historically were perceived as being tremendously successful would last maybe 5 seasons. You've been doing it for 5 years.
Yeah.
It's like, have you done all the stuff you need to do? Or is there an unlimited amount of you that people are prepared to absorb? And then also at the same time, how do you develop and maintain an algorithm that's capable of balancing the new ways in which people interact with you? Because there shouldn't be the expectation, or at least there hasn't been in the past, this expectation that fandom around a certain person or a certain thing should be equivalent over a 10-year period.
Right.
Like when I first find, I don't know, some artist or something that I really like, my enthusiasm, the enthusiasm graph is going to spike at some point early on, presumably. And then my awareness level will be maintained, but it won't probably be to the same degree with the same amount of discovery that would lead me to click on like 7 or 8 or 10 different videos. I might go check up a little less frequently.
Yep.
And so when those are also the inputs as to it's this balancing act between satisfying people who have made an investment in you versus the people who don't know you exist yet.
Yeah.
And how or where you feel your responsibility lives. If you think you're doing something productive and good and that you would like to share with people, then it seems to me you should be equally interested in converting new people as you are to satisfying the old people.
Yeah.
But that's the part that's hard to do.
I've noticed it, for example, at my channel, like there's a few of us, like Peter McKinnon, I think is the king of the filmmaker space, who we rode this
Does
wave.
he call himself that?
I call him that. I call him that. I think I think we rode this wave in the 2017. That's when both of us started. He started like a little, I think, end of 2016. I started right at the beginning of 2017, and back then I think there was a huge increase in interest in filmmaking and how do you make videos, and gear was harder to use back then. You had to use technical tools. We didn't have iPhones with cinematic mode to do the thing that you wanted to. And so we rode this wave of interest, and it worked out really well. And now I'm noticing that I think people are more interested in being a content creator versus a filmmaker. And so now I have to, do I adjust to that? Do I start teaching about content creation versus filmmaking? Because there isn't as much interest in that. And probably also just the fact that there's probably 1,000 different channels that are doing the exact same thing as me and Peter started doing it. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And so things change. Yeah, you gotta adapt and move. And yeah, it's a hard question of, what is the right choice. And I think this is where it gets tricky too. Is it's really easy to. I kind of alluded to this already, where like I hit 1 million. Now I'm gonna do this for me. But that doesn't carry, I don't think, for very long, just doing it for you. I think there's a lot more satisfaction doing, helping other people, or like enabling other people, or teaching. Like, I think I got a lot of satisfaction out of that. And if I was to just make videos that make me feel good, or that like I only like, I don't think that would last for very long for me. Like that motivation would just kind of, I think it would dwindle, at least for me. I don't think it would be something that carries me.
That's the philosophical tree falls in the forest, but no one's around.
Yeah.
I agree with you. You will hear that often though in the space, that as long as I like it.
Yeah.
And you sit and you ponder that, and it sounds really good.
It sounds good, yeah.
Initially, it's like, sweet. That means it's going to be authentic, because you're not going to be influenced by all these external inputs. But in what universe does that exist, that we're not influenced by external inputs?
I think more often that's like a voice of insecurity, maybe a little bit. Like, you've had that peak, and then you're starting to come down a little bit. Like, well, I'm just going to keep doing this for myself, or, like that. There's that little bit of like, I see that at least a lot, is that like that desperate moment of when you're not having that rise, you're not, growing as fast as you were, you're not in the limelight as much as you were before. And then it's like, what do you do with that?
The algorithm giveth and the algorithm taketh away.
How have you noticed that in your 10 years? Like, has there been like big booms and then big like downs, or has it just been kind of consistent as you work?
I'm going to do another version of what you just said, and say that roller coaster ride, being at the casino and constantly winning. This may sound as though I'm making excuses, but that might not be the best thing for you either.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Maybe some like a fork in the road, or maybe some struggle can actually yield something that's even that you're even more engaged with or excited about than the thing that you were previously doing that was maybe yielding too much.
Yeah.
And so, because we talked a little bit, maybe this was before we started rolling, just about the motivation to experiment. Mm-hmm. No, that was at the very beginning.
Yeah,
we were rolling. What is that motivation? What is that? What is that insight hits you in the shower that says everything you're doing is wrong? Right? Or you need to try this one thing and just see what happens. Some of that is maybe your own intuition, but then your intuition is influenced by behaviors that you're seeing, analytics that you're looking at, other videos you're watching.
Other channels taking off. faster than yours.
Other channels taking off, input that you're getting in real life, anecdotally from your brutally honest children. For real though,
I'm not there yet. But.
You will, and you will, and you sit there and say to yourself, "Is this bad for me?" For example, my kids play sports, and their path towards progression there is extreme awareness around their shortcomings, extreme awareness around failure. We don't really fall on our face as much. Once you get to a point, you build up this force field, you build up this structure around yourself that is impenetrable. You have this success, and people treat you like a person who has had this success. Might be the worst thing for you.
Yeah,
might be putting a ceiling on your own improvement. So some of this feedback that you're getting could be fuel for whatever the next thing happens to be, but only so far as you're not exceedingly nostalgic about the way that things were.
Yeah, which is tempting.
Always. So, my thing is, the thing I've been thinking on a lot recently, and you can hopefully give me your point of view on this too, is that maybe the futuristic internet content provider has to transition at different points into either different roles or completely different projects. More similar to how traditional media works, where you could be a director or an actor or a host, but the enterprise or the one particular job, you could do it and put it down and move on to the next project. There seems to be something attractive about that to me. Somewhere in the back of my head, like, wouldn't it be cool? Or I have all these ideas, these things that I would love to execute, but I've been here for 10 years.
Yeah.
And the influential inputs have kept me there. This idea of building your own jail or whatever. I think Peter and I talked about that too. I don't know that there's any rush. I don't know that the rush is specifically associated with overall scale as much as it is with trajectory. You can go and do something right now. I'm not advising you to do this. This is not financial advice. That you could put down what you've done, start something else, and have a change in trajectory, acceleration that might not be anywhere near the scale of your pre-existing project, but the line is different, the incline is different, and therefore more exciting because you're climbing at a different, more rapid pace from a growth perspective or from an engagement perspective or from a feedback perspective. Because like we started doing this show.
Yeah.
And it's not some type of massive success.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like 500,000 people are going to watch this. I apologize.
I'm not going to get subs from this.
No, you're going to get 5 or 6 subs, man.
All right. This was great. I'm going to head out.
The door's over there. No, the door, you got to go that way.
So what for you? I'm curious. Like,
just one more thing on that. I apologize.
No. Keep it going.
There's just one more thing on that. Some of the feedback that we get on this show is really motivating. It could just be 1 or 2 comments, and you can actually find them because it's not that many of them. And then you say, oh, you know what? Like, that person took the time to write all that. It's not a simple iPhone sucks comment, which happens in the realm of trying to trying to extract what's really going on around your other projects. And so the motivators, the inputs, the analytics, they're not equivalent. Some are, for whatever reason, have more meaning even at different scale.
Today's sponsor is Magic Spoon.
I'm eating this stuff. I have a bowl of it right here. We've been trying all the flavors in the studio. This is my first exposure to the maple, and I don't know how they knew this, but I'm a big maple guy. And so this one, it spoke to me. I've been chewing it. It's a great little snack. And I don't even know how they get these specs on this cereal. I don't even know how they put it together because it's some high-tech cereal.
Let me hit you with some facts. There's 0 grams of sugar, 14 grams of protein, and only 4 net grams of carbs in each serving. Also, 140 calories. That's pretty good.
I don't even know how they do it.
Yeah.
That's the thing I'm saying. Like, I know it's some sort of tech. I was reading about how they're able to sweeten it. I mean, you can check it out for yourself. But the fact of the matter is, this is some next level, some high tech cereal. And they have so many flavors now that there's got to be something for everybody on there.
Yeah, it's got cookies and cream, the maple waffle that you enjoy, cinnamon, and blueberry.
That's incredible. I'm chewing one of these right now. It's also keto friendly, gluten free, grain free, soy free, and low carb. Also, I just noticed if you're in Canada or the UK, Magic Spoon is now shipping to you as well.
And Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Click the link below to grab a variety pack and try it today. And to be sure to use the promo code LULATER at checkout to get $5 off any order. Go to magicspoon.com/LULATER. This episode is also brought to you by Bright Cellars.
This is cool. So I saw you doing this. This was like you do a quiz, and then there's pairings for wine that come via this quiz. Like what kind of flavors you like, what else you want to eat with it. A lot of people, they don't know what's going on with wine, and this sort of makes it easier.
Mm-hmm.
They got a variety of stuff to choose from, and they've even got a deal for people that want to try it out. 50% off a first order of a 6-bottle box from Bright Cellars. So you can go do the quiz, get started, and get a 50% discount. That's a no-joke type of discount.
Oh, yeah. Bright Cellars uses a wine algorithm to match you with wines you are guaranteed to love.
Guaranteed!
Oh, yeah. You have to take their 30-second quiz, and they match you with wines based on the things you know you like.
Wow.
Like your favorite type of chocolate or your favorite type of juice.
Wow, a 30-second quiz is all it takes.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine?
And then they ship your matches directly to your doorstep for you to enjoy. Find the perfect wine has never been easier. So I tried out one of their wines. It's called Silver Scape Syrah. It's the 2020 edition, and it's quite sweet. I paired it with some
Is that what you wanted?
steak
You wanted something sweet?
and thyme and rosemary. Yeah, I have a sweet tooth.
Steak and thyme and rosemary? Wow.
That's a perfect combo, I would
You're
say.
living one heck of a life over there, Willie Do. That's
Yes.
incredible.
To help you find your favorite wine, we are giving you 50% off your first 6-bottle box from Bright Cellars by going to brightsellars.com/LouLater. Click the link in the bio and head to brightsellars.com/LouLater to receive 50% off your first 6-bottle order. Bright Cellars, helping you discover wine you love.
This is a long roundabout rant. The question is, what is your next project?
What is my next project? It's kind of half secret right now.
That's not gonna suffice. We're gonna need some tidbits of.
Okay, so we're
information
gonna
here.
be be releasing some stuff pretty soon.
We?
Yeah, me. So my
You don't have to spill everything. I just
I'll spill some. So
Okay.
my older brother works for Shopify. You know what Shopify is.
yeah.
assume,
So I saw these cases. I use
Exactly.
Shopify.
Yeah.
Shopify is incredible.
Great company.
Yep.
So he's like a coding genius, whatever. And so him, my manager Tyler, and then my younger brother Teppo. So my older brother's name is Miko. We've been toying on something to help content creators. I think we're in the wild west. Like people always ask, like, is this, is it too saturated? Can you still become a YouTuber or content creator or whatever? I think it's still so early days. I don't know about you, but I feel like maybe you have a different perspective because you've been doing this for a long time or longer than I have. I feel like we're still so in the early days. Like it's still so wild west. Everybody's trying to figure it out. Content creators, brands, like how do we all, like everything's just wild west. And there's no really place to turn to learn about this. Like if you wanted to be a YouTuber right now, like what would you do? Like, I don't know, search stuff on YouTube. And like a lot of times those channels that teach about YouTube aren't necessarily the people that are, really doing the YouTube stuff right now. They might be, talking about the stuff that was working a little bit maybe a year or two ago, but they're not maybe, they're not doing the things that are really working right now. So we're trying to solve for that space. That's I think what I'm trying to do is, again, this like, okay, what's next progression? I want to build something that's bigger than just my Matti Haapoja channel, even though that's way bigger than I ever thought I would build, that's already like absolutely nuts to me. But now it's like, okay, if that's possible, like what else is possible? And so the next step is building something that's hopefully and will be, hopefully.
Is this an app or a website?
Yeah, it'll be a platform.
A platform.
Yeah, of sorts.
Platform.
Not like competing with Facebook or something.
Platforms
like
sound really serious.
Yeah.
When you're doing when you're creating a platform.
Yeah, and I feel like there's like, I would love to come on here in a few months from now, hopefully, and talk about it more. I think there's a lot of like vertical to where we could take it. It'll start as something that'll be really important, and then it could continue as something much much bigger.
Sure, why not?
So I guess that's like my progress, but it's a lot of it's in my head, and it stresses the crap out of me right now because it's like it's all this stuff about like running a YouTube channel is really simple in a way. Like there's complexities 100%, but it's simple. Like you just start a channel and you can by yourself film, edit, come up with the content all by yourself, and then you can hire some people to help you out, whatever. But then like running a company is like, I don't know. There's just
a different skill set.
Yeah, totally different ball game. So yeah, that's like I think.
So that's sort of outside of content creation.
So So we talked about if I quit my channel right now, it's done. I can't have like. I mean, my brother looks like me, so maybe he could, like take it over. But like, I can't have somebody just like buy my channel off me, and like, it's not going to be really worth much for them.
The brand is actually you.
Yeah, exactly.
It's youtube.com/
it's
Matti H.
Yeah, exactly. So it's me. And so what do I do to build something off of my brand, put a little bit of my brand onto something, and then, I can keep building that, or maybe someday sell that, that's kind of how my brain is much more business and logical oriented than like I hated art class. Art class was the worst class. I hated any class that was subjective, English, all these that are like the teacher can like decide whether it's good or not. Hated all that stuff. And so, yeah, my brain just thinks about all that kind of stuff a lot. Like, I don't want to waste this opportunity. That's how I see it. It's like I've been given these like keys that like could do a lot, and I don't want to waste this opportunity. That's kind of, I think that's like the pressure I have on myself right now in a way, and that's why it's even more dumb to just be like, all right, I think I'm good. Like I think I'm just gonna, I don't know, do something else. Like I feel like I need to, use this in a good way.
So that's an interesting, it's a very honest way of looking at it. I think it is logical. It's reasonable. I think most people would get to a point where they would could have a similar revelation.
Are you going to tell me I'm wrong?
No, I'm not.
Tell me I'm wrong.
No, I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong. I think it's a struggle.
Yeah.
I think that some people try to hold on to something so permanently that they smother it, strangle it. It ceases to breathe afterwards. Or some people go on to some other project, neglect the thing that people actually appreciated and connected with, and then view the original thing differently too through the lens of this next undertaking. I'm not saying that's what I'm just representing the other side of it, and the struggle with figuring out how to create something permanent. We that's where brand versus personality gets really tough, because when I started, I very in a very obvious way, I made it a brand instead of a name. Although back then that was a more common thing to do anyways. People were like, my identity online. What? Are you crazy? But in a way, it kind of makes things easier because you can hide behind it at times. And be like, that's a brand right there. Maybe it is a thing that has some sort of value outside of yourself. What's weird is when you first start, there is a strong kind of urge to invest in yourself because you get really positive feedback from doing that, like really personalizing things. And, and then I suppose your ego to a certain extent. People are here for me.
Yeah.
People really love me.
Yeah.
Isn't it amazing?
It might be the first time that you're really getting that.
It's attractive. And by inserting a brand and I know this is very nuanced and people are like, what's the difference? But by inserting a brand, by putting a brand in between that, it somehow maybe insulates you. But it also, through that insulation, it opens up opportunities that you may be reluctant to approach had it been your whole name on the line. Maybe it lets you make some other mistakes. But also then long-term, brands, at least I'm not suggesting that'll happen here because it is a YouTube channel. Let's just chill out here for a second. Let's not get too carried away. It's
just making silly videos on that.
Well, I mean, it's not. I'm not selling sneakers. You know what I mean? Like I don't. Michael Jordan is not on the channel. But in a way, you feel some added flexibility there, and that there could be some permanent value, or that you could actually move on from it, which is a thing I've talked about. I don't know how people think that it's some sort of crisis mode. You went all the way to Starbucks.
I got the real coffee.
You went all the way to Starbucks.
Ooh, what are these? What are these?
I knew Kirk was going to take this job real serious.
I'm gonna go with the yellow. But what is it?
You're not allowed to know. You're not allowed to know. I bet it has turmeric in it.
I'll go for the red.
I probably won't be able to talk after this.
Thank you.
I'm gonna have this afterwards.
Is that black?
Controversial.
Wow. No labels, no nothing. This seems dangerous. Could make for an exciting show. But I have
drink it on it.
Oh, mine is a blood cleanser. Chlorophyll E3 Live.
Oh, good.
Go to cola. All right.
Mine's immune booster. Lemon ginger oregano oil.
I've had that before. That one's good, but you're right. It's gonna.
I'm not gonna be able to like talk
clear out your sinus. It's gonna be quite a. Should we do it or what? What do you say? All right.
Is this turning into like hot ones for
I think I feel like it just did.
I've never done one of these ones, so if I don't die,
what
you
is
make it sound like an illicit material. All right, here we go. 3, 2.
Are you supposed to do the whole thing at once?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh gosh. Am I gonna die?
No, no one is dying here. It's not what we're
gonna be fine.
3, 2, 1, go. Oh, mine was easy. It tastes like seaweed, sort of.
Woo!
Matti got that.
This one's a bit sour, but it's not too bad.
It's like spicy.
Yeah, it has pepper in it, right?
Called oregano oil. Oregano oil.
Whoa! I didn't expect that to be spicy. What the?
You really did have the toughest test here.
I feel like I'm on hot ones now. This is
smell
like a precursor.
Your drink from here. Oh, yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Oh, that's gonna be. Thank you for this experience.
Honestly, I had no idea that Kirk was going to do that, and I appreciate your participation.
What I was gonna say before this, my channel actually, I'm like tearing up here. This is like, my channel. I started off. I called it Travel Feels.
Whoa!
Yeah. It was like when I started my channel, I was like, it's gonna be about traveling. But I don't want to travel all the time, so I'm going to do tutorials teaching how to make travel films. And then I made, like, my first video is like, hey, I'm starting YouTube, whatever, nobody sees that. And then my second video is, a lot of people, I was flying drones a lot, and then back then I'd have a GoPro on the Phantom 2 or whatever it was back then. And people wondered how, like, for example, this video, how did I make the GoPro looks so cinematic? Like, it doesn't look like GoPro. So I made a video how to make GoPro look cinematic. And that video, I think, could be my top video or second video or something in terms of views. Okay, so it's second now. And And that video, when it took off, that's when I started to get my subs. So it like took a few weeks and then it like took off. And then I was like, oh, okay. Travel isn't going to be the main thing. The tutorials are going to be the main thing. And then travel is just like how I show off that like, okay, I also kind of know what I'm doing a little bit. And so it progressed like that. But then I realized pretty quickly that I didn't want to, like I was thinking long term, I didn't want to pigeonhole myself to be just a travel channel. And that's obviously what you're going to think if you read Travel Feels, right? And I was thinking, you know, when I have kids, blah, 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 I'm going to maybe want to settle. I want the option. So I was like, okay, I'm going to change it to my name, which is really scary at the time. I was like, is this going to screw up the whole algorithm and like kills the whole channel or something crazy like that?
Yeah.
Change it to my name. And then with that, I kind of like started expanding to anything that I'm interested in. So like I guess it's my 4th most viewed video. It's like about an electric bike. That was when I randomly decided I was going to try daily vlogging for a bit. And this was like, I think my 1st or 2nd daily vlog. I think I only did like 26 or something like that in a row. Absolutely nuts. And so I just gave myself the permission to like anything that I'm interested in, as long as it's like within reason, kind of works. And I film it in my style and like, you know, show it off like the way that I normally would. Then I would go for that. And so that's why I changed it to my name. So I would have a little bit more, you know,
Flexibility.
exactly.
It's a
I feel like I have a pizza in my mouth, but it's really spicy and like I can't get it. What is this?
I think it's really healthy. Like I'm pretty sure that you've just been upgraded.
Immune boosted.
Yeah, you've been boosted after that. Yeah, I think I hear what you're saying. I think it's definitely much more flexible. It's like, hey, whatever I get into, I'm just going to post here and
Can I eat one of these Timbits?
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's
Try
what
to
they're
get
that's
some
what
of
they're
this-
here for.
But this is probably the worst on a podcast.
There's a pumpkin Timbit. Do you have any feelings?
I tasted it.
Yeah.
It feels tastes kind of like cardboard to me a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
I'm not a
It's a texture problem.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you. They put pumpkin in everything now. Like, what's your feeling on pumpkin in general?
I mean, it's not like my favorite, so
It's not a big deal.
yeah,
to
it's
you.
not. It's not phasing me much.
Will
you know?
you buy an actual pumpkin this year?
My kid's favorite, so my son Kai, his favorite like holiday thing that he talks about all the time is Halloween. So I think we gotta get the pumpkin for him.
You'll carve the pumpkin,
I think so. I think we have to. Yes. Yes.
and it becomes a jack-o'-lantern.
Yes.
I don't know if you knew that.
I did. Yes.
Halloween is a weird event.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to people's houses and asking for candy.
Yep.
And we've been doing it. I've been doing it my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I stopped asking for candy at some point.
In Finland, where I grew up, they actually didn't do Halloween ever, and now they kind of, I think, a little bit maybe do it. But they had a similar version during Easter.
Okay.
I don't know why, but you'd go during the day and you get like 5 pieces of candy or something like that.
Hey,
You feel like
Easter's got a
nothing.
candy thing going on as well. There's a
It's
chocolate
true.
thing going on with Easter.
I think that's just like commercial capitalization.
Of
on-
course. Well, that's like everything, isn't
Yeah.
it? That's like your YouTube channel. That was a joke.
Yeah, that was a good jab.
I was just no. It's like my YouTube channel. All right. It's a jab at myself. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah. Go ahead. Yes.
You see the algorithm changing. You've seen it change. Probably it's like
I see the algorithm.
you know the algorithm, right? You have the keys to the
I
algorithm.
make sweet love to the algorithm.
You know how like in the beginning it was, and I think YouTube has kind of themselves said this already, where it's like they basically just spat out the videos that had high views. That was like the beginning, I think, basically of YouTube. Then it turned to like, was it already the next iteration? No, I think they tried to figure out like, okay, what's better content? Then watch time started to come in.
Let's figure out what's better content.
you know what I mean? Like Charlie Bit My Finger is funny, but like, it's not gonna carry YouTube to the next level.
Right.
And so like, what's the better content? And then watch time came, and then, the birth of vloggers came because it was easy to make long content. And like people had their main channels, and then they started a vlogging channel, and the vlog channel became bigger than their main channel. And then now I think we're in this phase of like hyper a thumbnail and title, click through rate, and still watch time, audience retention, whatever. It's the MrBeast era, right?
That is a better a better way of describing it because I actually think we're past thumbnail title.
Okay, yeah, I think we've had a little bit, but yeah, it's like the hyper title and thumbnail. I would say in a way.
Well, but that's where I feel that input can actually have a negative impact if the thumbnail and title is better than the actual video. So
Correct. It's the combination now maybe of like title, thumbnail,
need it.
and the video has to be like engaging from start to finish. You know, it has to be MrBeast. Like
I don't know. Okay, so I think about this a lot because obviously you kind of have to if you're doing this thing. If you're actually playing the game, if you're in the casino, we're in the casino.
yeah, my question was going to be, how much of this do you take into account, or do you just stay the course? Sorry, I don't know if that was totally different from what you're about to say, but I feel like that's
That's it. I just the way you phrased it at the end there, the truth is that it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Right. The truth is that you're out here doing a thing, and once you've made the decision, you're going to continue to do a thing, and certainly once you have employees and you have people that rely on the thing, the responsible thing to do seems to be that you would take into consideration that which is happening across the network and platform. But this just seems like the right managerial move.
Yep.
Now, sometimes your person gets in the way, in which it's, I don't want to, don't make me. And then, but at the same time, your other self, your managerial self is saying, you idiot, you've got to manage all of this. You can't act as though you're on an island and none of it matters. So I would watch this stuff with allowing it to have sort of a limited input into my approach. But I do tend to watch YouTube less and less in a way of enjoyment and more in a way of analysis.
Yeah, I do that a lot too.
Let me see this video. Why does it have, why is this happening around this video, and so on and so forth. And one thing that seems to have happened as short form has taken off, and we didn't talk about it yet, long form has had to become more short form. In this, and not necessarily with the timestamp, but it just has to happen faster.
It's the tension, like keeping that tension all the time. You can have a long video, but you gotta be delivering all the time.
Yeah, and it depends on even what we consider to be a long video, because 10 minutes is long now.
I'll make 20-minute videos sometimes just for fun. I'm like, my brother asked me, he's like editing, he's like, it's really long. I'm like, whatever, just put it out.
There you
like,
go.
I don't think about it. So that's like what the stay the course, or I take into account a little bit, but I also just stay the course. I'm like, I'm just gonna keep making what I make. Hopefully, it's still like, I'm making better content, in my opinion, better content all the time.
Sure.
But I'm not gonna go full MrBeast and
Yeah, it's also, I mean, you have to consider who your audience is, how they move through the internet, what their habits are. If you want to keep speaking to the same people versus continue to grow. See, that's one of the problems. I think the problem is that the expectation around maintaining an audience is that some are going to leave. Like, that's the maintenance problem.
Yep.
Some are just going to be done with it. And typically it's the new additions that allow the thing to be, to continue to go. So you need need some sort of a way of, and then hence your problem.
Yeah.
Is that you kind of have to speak the language, or at least attend the party to make the friends.
Yep.
And if you're just reluctant, you're like, hey, that music is for you youngsters, and I can't jive with it, then you shouldn't really expect to acquire anybody new, because you haven't made the effort to go have a chat, find out what's good about it.
Yeah.
So it's always a balancing act. I think the nice thing is, I think it's all gotten less gameable. It actually has to do the thing now. I think myself, probably yourself, so many of us from this past era have benefited through becoming sophisticated game players. I found a shortcut. Whatever, some little tweak or something, or some ability to have an effect or persuade people to click on something, and then that might be good enough. The era that you're talking about, one of the big, my perception is that one of the big factors of the time was frequency, that there was a content drought.
Yeah.
And so therefore, and I think there's some sort of heavily weighted daily active component. If a person had whatever channel could generate more consistent behaviors, as short form has taken off and more experiences on the site have become algorithmic experiences, just like spit stuff at me, and I'll just click on for like I would rather. This is the read 10 headlines instead of one article.
Yeah.
I think there's a large number of people, and I can look at your retention graph and know that's the case. They didn't watch 20 minutes. I hate to break it to you.
No, definitely not.
So again,
what's MrBeast say? Like 70% retention? I'm like, that's nuts. I don't think any of my videos probably have a 70% retention.
But if you just reframe that a little bit and you kind of take all ego out of it, if a person came to your restaurant and every time the plate came back, 80% of food was on the plate, what are they telling you about your food?
Yeah. That's rough. That hurt.
I didn't mean it that way. Like, I'm just thinking about it as I'm here when you go to like a fine restaurant or something, often the portion sizes
are smaller.
But it's also very thoughtful.
Yeah.
And configured in such a way that portion is impacting experience. There should be this much of this item and this much of that. It's part of the overall concoction.
Yeah.
And I guess the same could be said about storytelling. If you've got someone who tells a good story, they know exactly how long to spend on one part of the buildup and exactly how long to spend on the payoff or a joke or, I mean, any art form.
But I feel like I'm curious what you think. I think what it is right now, TikTok, MrBeast, it's and also the way the business side of things works. They all want clicks. They want more and more, and investors more and more. And so you can't have like the clicks and watch time and stuff be going down because that would be really bad for the company. But I think it's leading to a totally different form of content, right? Like, do you watch MrBeast videos, for example?
From time to time.
Yeah.
I mean, not on a consistent basis.
Yeah. So I watch them out of curiosity every once in a while. And
Yeah,
maybe that's why. But like, if I watch a whole, and no like disrespect or anything, like I'm sure there's people that feel totally different. But if I watch a whole MrBeast video, I'm like, I'm not too like pumped after. Like, I kind of feel like, okay, I think I just wasted time. And it's the same thing with TikTok,
Right.
You can easily get sucked into TikTok for half an hour. Just like, it's so easy. It so plays on our brain. But at the end of it, I don't think I've ever been like, oh, sick. Like, I'm pumped to, do something. Or I'm inspired, or I've learned, there's none of those like good feelings, meaningful feelings. And I think that you also see that with like, in my opinion, TV shows, like series are bigger than movies nowadays because there's way more time to build up this big story and this big like world, and you get sucked into it, like Squid Game. I don't know if you've watched that.
I haven't watched it yet. A lot of people have been telling me to check it out.
Yeah, nuts. I think it leads to different things when you give time and you tell stories. And so like I'm curious what the next iteration of the algorithm will be, because I think what it is right now kind of leads to the TikTok empty content, in my opinion, at least. Yeah, I don't feel fulfilled by it, in any way.
And that's a personal perspective.
Exactly.
Like, this is your own
100%
taste for a thing, and even that would be a thing that developed over time.
Yeah.
One thing that I am have become aware of myself is just as I've moved through life and my circumstances have changed and I've got a family and things like this, just the opportunity in general to engage with content is down.
Yeah.
So my taste, probably platform wide, if there are people in a similar demographic having a similar life experience, is a way smaller input than that of people who do have more time on their hands and can set it aside to engage with content. Like, much like myself as a teenager, let's say, I would rent 7 movies at a time. I'd be like, whatever films I could get in, and I'd be watching all of them. So if you were to look at that as an input, then I'm sure the algorithm would shift. If every kid wanted to watch all the same films that I watch, then those things would be boosted, or it's there's a lot of big hit shows that are nothing more than entertainment.
Yeah.
Right. And there have been for a very long time.
Yeah.
Whether it's a singing show or even some kind of action movie or the Avengers.
Any of the Marvel,
or, what are you? Maybe there's themes and stories in there that you might be inspiring, or well, really what it is it's
pure entertainment.
Pure entertainment. And I think the pure entertainment element represents a wider portion of the funnel. And then as you move down, there are locations and spaces for people that have other niches and are looking for other things. And the amount of time you're willing to invest becomes different the closer that something gets to your own set of interests. But we might just have to become more satisfied with interacting with a much smaller group of people if that's the decision that we make. And then the question becomes whether or not that's sustainable.
Yeah.
To be so committed to even your own tastes, because I would argue that those things are equally influenced. Your own taste is influenced by what you can even see in the first place.
Yeah.
And your conditioning around what you've seen. If you and I came up in this new landscape, our taste would forever be different than where it ended up being because of our pre-existing habits. And so there will be new and interesting people that find new and interesting ways of using the medium as it exists to express whatever it is that teenagers would be expressing.
Yeah, I think it's
then you and I are the old men sitting there saying, back in my day,
it used to be way better.
We
had the real thing. And I guess you look at movies. The Oscar-nominated movies are arguably the best movies, are never the most watched movies, or very rarely. They're just like a small subset. And I think a majority of people would be like, that movie won like Best Picture. Like that was like, I thought that was really dumb, or like I would never watch that, So yeah, I definitely get it. But it is interesting to see how the algorithm is working. It like changes content.
Yes. But that's equivalent to saying the way that humanity is working is changing content.
Yeah.
Or changing habits or behaviors. It's we all exist in an environment where how people react to the things that we do matters. On a small scale, on a large scale, and so on and so forth. And I mean, it even goes as far as the devices that are in our pockets and how they've continued to scale up to encourage these new types of habits. And then if you're a smartphone company making the thing that accesses all the stuff, how much more important it becomes for bandwidth and speed and the ability to share these moments. Like, you try to imagine TikTok without the phone. TikTok needs the phone as much as the phone needs TikTok.
Yeah.
You imagine TikTok on a web browser, it just seems odd. Imagine you walk over to the guy's computer and he's just like, the input method and the device in many ways.
And the convenience of pulling it out and almost instantly being there, versus like putting on like taking out your laptop or whatever and then like powering it on or whatever.
Agency.
It
feels odd that you've taken all this agency and made all these moves to watch this stuff that you're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's also interconnected that it's hard to pinpoint any one thing. Like, that is all working together towards something, which is probably grimly us like inserted and engaged in some form of content all the time, like just strapped in to constant flow of exposure to. I mean, these things continue to get better. They continue to figure out more and more about you specifically and how to trigger a set of responses. And whether it's video games or content, YouTube channels, crypto, gaming websites, gambling, whatever, you take your pick, their sophistication level is commensurate with their ability to extract data from you, and they've all gotten very good at it.
Yeah.
And I don't see that changing. And therefore, if you and I continue to exist in the space, I think we have to become really aware of such things and comfortable with such things. Otherwise, it's going to be constant conflict of like, why is this not what I expected it to be?
Yeah.
It's just about becoming logical with yourself or reasonable that if I do X, Y, Z, I can't expect this alternative. And one of the inputs that's been really interesting or had an impact on my channel recently is unsubscriptions. There's so many subscribers that even a small number of unsubscriptions seem to have a very strong effect on a video's ability to receive impressions.
Interesting.
And I think that's because there's a ton of intent around that move. It's like, not only do I not like this thing, but I really don't like it.
I never want to see this again.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Or
you've changed.
possibly. Yeah. Or things have moved, or this is no longer relevant to me, or the frequency of uploads is irritating, or I mean this is what gets interesting around how YouTube manages its the content that's on there versus the content creator themselves. They give us some tools, but not all tools. Like, I can't see sentiment surveys. They can see it. How useful would it be to have real data about sentiment around a particular video? Like, okay, I get you like it. How much do you like it? How much do you want to see more of it?
Or how meaningful was this? Like, I think that's what I was trying to get at earlier, is that like MrBeast content is entertaining, but it's not meaningful. And maybe that's maybe just my perspective, but like TikTok is entertaining, but it's not meaningful most of the time.
Well, then the question becomes, what are the economics around meaning?
Yeah.
Because they're probably different. And this is where...
And is there any really that like...
No, there are. For sure there are, right? Because when, for example, if you launched some sort of a master class in some sort of thing that you're an expert in, the expectation wouldn't be that 10 million people would arrive. The expectation would be that 1,000 might, and those 1,000 may take tremendous value from it, and in exchange, they may pay for it directly. I mean, when you start to think about the economics, and YouTube itself and all of social media has really diversified in this category, donations, or it started with Patreon, or super chat, subscriptions, the way follows work on Twitch, the places in which people feel that they're getting more, the merch, I guess, is another example, products, things like this. Like, the super fan of the band, it's not enough for them to go to the show. They got to buy the t-shirt. They got to own the collector's edition. So there are ways, I think, to substitute as far as the economics are concerned.
Yeah.
But the problem is the untangling of the initial metric, view metric, which for so long has been the lifeblood of us figuring out what is and isn't working.
Yeah.
It may be far healthier to just to be okay with this limited group of interested parties, and then to foster that community, figure out a healthier way to interact with that community. I know it feels very weird and slimy. It's like, wait, am I asking people for money? How does it work?
Yeah.
But there's other places like Twitch where it's not a problem at all.
Yeah, it's just a normal part of the culture. Yeah, it's sometimes frustrating when maybe you try to do a video that's like a little bit different from your normal content, but it's like really important and meaningful and whatever. And maybe it's even really well done and in a way like entertaining or whatever. But just because it's a little bit off brand or whatever, your existing subscribers might not click on it as much, and then that brings your stats down, and then it doesn't get spit out to as many people, and like the stat, it just kind of like dies. And so like what will change that is that this kind of like sentimental whatever stat that's added that could like those people that did find it, their lives were changed by it.
It's weirdly creepy though. Imagine that tab in analytics, the meaning score. You're like, oh yes.
Your channel has a 0% meaning score.
But even on the other end of the spectrum, like strong meaning.
Strong-
There is
Yeah,
strong
strong.
meaning associated with your channel.
I wouldn't be surprised if that comes at
Hey,
some
of
point.
course it'll come at some point. It's the video gamification of all life and all things that we interact with. It doesn't even have to just be YouTube. You can imagine as these things roll out in other lines of work where a person could have an email response and then the AI says, that's a 7. That email response is a 7. Try again. And then you're like, ugh. And you go back and like the way
Make
we
it
try
more
to
meaningful.
the way we try to figure out like a headline or a title for
Yeah.
something. Imagine that your email client is giving you that amount of feedback, and that's for everybody in any form of correspondence. This is going to have. We are going to continue to be more and more informed by the giant data set, and our behaviors will be a response to the giant data set instead of the kind of free-flowing way that we perceive intuition. So what is a social norm? Well, that's in our own head about, it's our own data set. I did this thing previously, and it had this effect. And so hopefully that happens again because I got a data set of like 10 different experiences where I had input A and then B happened. But we're not going to have to guess anymore. We're not going to have had the previous experience because the larger data set's going to tell us before we even need to attempt it and fail ourselves. Imagine you click upload on a video and the algorithm says, nah, bad idea.
Not up to the
do it.
standards.
Don't do it. And you're like, oh my God.
Imagine when there's just meta humans running your channel and it just gives you 100 different versions of the same video. And then you just like algorithm, okay, this was the best one, publish.
And edits and shots in the first place, algo cameras that only. Let me ask you something. What's something you like that isn't on your channel at all? Something you like that has never been featured on your channel?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I feel like I'm fairly like, in a way, I'm pretty open book on my channel. I think that was the part of the move that like, not open book that I share everything about my life, but like pretty much I'd say all my interests, I would say are pretty much on there. So far,
Really?
I haven't documented. I bought an electric surfboard. Haven't documented
That's
that
a
yet.
thing now.
Yeah,
Electric everything.
electric everything.
It worked for skateboards. Let's bring it
Oh
everywhere.
heck yeah, yeah. It's called an awake board. Yeah, it's absurdly expensive, but super fun.
You got worried as Will started to Google it. You're like, the price is about to come
Don't
up.
judge. Don't judge.
You're about to be judged.
I don't spend money on really anything
Right, except for electric surfboards.
except for this absurdly expensive
oh
electric
my
surfboard.
God, they're really expensive.
One battery is like stupid. Yeah.
Do I have this correct? What is that, US dollars? What is that?
I think that's US.
We're talking about a $15,000.
Don't say that. It's
You're talking about a car here.
yeah. I mean, they gave me a bit of a deal, but yeah.
Wow. This is
This was an
not
expensive new
something
hobby.
I would expect. Like, can't you?
I think
can't you get a boat? Almost.
I feel like a boat for me is just like, I don't know. It's kind of interesting, but this is
You
like,
can have other people on the boat. This thing.
I can let other people use this
I
and
guess
have
so.
an experience that they'll never have.
84 pounds.
Yeah, well, if you take off the battery, then it's kind of nice because you can just take off the battery weighs a lot, and then if you take off the battery, you can obviously carry both separately pretty easily.
This is wild.
So I don't know if you've gotten like is your brain like this, but I think I get this half from my dad also. It's like anything you buy has a price, not just the price tag, but also in terms of time and maintenance and like your stress and all that. And so like so I have a Tesla and I love it. I never have to go for oil changes or any of that stuff. I just charge it pretty much like that's it. And so like this to me, it's like it's so nice for my brain that I just charge the battery, ride it. Winter comes up, I just store it. I don't have to worry about oil and blah 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 and gas in there.
You've
or whatever.
already made all the justifications. This is the best
It's
deal
like a therapy
ever.
therapy session. I think what actually and this is probably half full truth is like COVID was like horrendous for experiences. I'm used to the best part of YouTube by far for me is the experiences that I've gotten, like meeting people, doing things that I would never ever get to do. I would maybe get to film somebody else doing them, but I would never get to experience them myself. Now I get to experience these. COVID hits. We're just at home, just at the office. No experience, no traveling, like just like experience starved is how I've said it. And then at some point, this was clearly like I need some experiences. And I was like, okay, I can definitely get some fun videos out of this, and it should be pretty fun riding it around. So let's go for it. Let's spend some brand deal money on
I don't think that you're alone. I think people all of a sudden were considering plenty of alternatives to travel, specifically because a lot of people, they would at least have one vacation in a year or something along these lines, and then they had that set aside in their mind, and they wanted to go ahead and place it somewhere else and say, well, that's justified because it didn't go over here.
Yep.
So COVID brought a whole new meaning and value to a bunch of unusual things.
I think I also had a kind of a realization that I spend little to no money on my videos in terms of like production, other than like flights. Even like if I'm traveling somewhere, I would look for like pretty cheap accommodations and stuff like that. Like I would spend.
Are
very
you frugal? Is that what it is?
I don't. Maybe I just like. I like to save and invest. That's like again. It's like the brain efficiencies. I would most of the time rather just save and I've been like that since I was a kid. Like
yeah, I think Will can jive with you on that. Are you a save and invest type?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crypto,
Heck yeah.
though.
Easy.
I do a little bit of that too. Yeah.
Yeah. See, that works on a lot of people's minds as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think even as a kid, like, you know, we would get like, you know, Christmas chocolates or something like that. My brothers, they would eat theirs within the first like day or two, and I'd have mine like a month later.
A
still,
saver
like,
type.
Yeah.
I see.
And so like that's why I think it's like in my brain, it's still.
You know what goes along with that mentality, though? Sometimes can be indecision, delay, because like you got to execute.
Should I buy
right?
this? I know. I don't think so. I don't. It's really expensive. No.
Did you have that moment?
Oh, yeah. I've probably looked at the site before I bought my Tesla. I looked at 100 times.
100.
It's like, you know, like, no, I shouldn't do it. Like, I should just buy like a used car or something like that. Like,
And then
keep it simple.
you think about the 100 hours you spent lamenting that you could have been just doing more work.
Yeah,
And you would have already paid for the thing in the first place.
That's where this comes. It's like, let's just pull the trigger.
Whoa.
I can make a video on this. I can make my money back on it. You know, how much you know time and stress is it going to be? Hopefully not much.
Is there a discussion with the wife or the family at all?
Yeah.
Is there a debate?
Well, I mean, this is more like business side. I would categorize.
Really?
With the car for sure. Yeah, anything that's like that. This was. I mean, I did talk to my wife about the surfboard too. It was expensive. It's the most expensive thing I've ever bought, other than a car or a house.
So there was a talk. How did you initially pose the conversation? How did it start?
Probably a totally different version if you ask my wife about this.
Right.
I don't
How do you remember? I just feel like it's a really weird thing to start with. You enter the room and you're like,
I think my wife, I think she trusts me on this kind of stuff. That like she knows my personality. That I'm not the like
riskiest.
I'm not the crazy risk taker. The like I'm just gonna do things on a whim kind of thing. I've thought this through, and so like when I come at her and I'm like, I think I'm gonna buy this electric surfboard. She's like, okay. Like she might not understand it, but like I think she trusts me at this point. That like, yeah, he hasn't made any stupid big purchases that like are just.
Track record.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got a good track record.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, anytime you make the business angle as well, it's super
always
helpful.
works.
I think if you went into it saying, you know what, I'm going to get this electric surfboard because I have to have more fun, then it might be different.
It'd be a little harder, yeah.
It might be different. It always helps that when your interests align with your business interests.
Yeah.
That's super helpful because it lets you justify things that you do actually want to do. Yeah. But in such a fashion that feels more responsible.
That's the great thing about YouTube. I love FPV, or like I want to get into it. Okay, I just, bring it into my channel, tell the stories about me getting into it, teach about it, whatever. And then once I've gone through all that, then I can show things in a totally different way that people haven't seen before because FPV is still pretty new. I'm interested in an electric surfboard. Bring it in.
I hear it, man. I hear you. And along the way, you become an expert in the thing.
Yeah.
And therefore, who knows how that investment could pay off if you become a source for information. I've seen this happen with Tesla channels, where somebody really just wanted a Tesla, but then they started filming their Tesla, and then they referred 1,000 people to buy Teslas.
Yeah. Everybody's asking them about, I should just make videos about this because everybody's asking me. And then
it's very organic the way in which it happens around interests. The only thing I will say on that topic is sometimes your interests becoming work kills your interests.
Yeah. That is definitely true. Yeah. I think for me, filmmaking used to be a hobby and a passion. Now filmmaking is just like a tool that I have in the tool bag.
That's why I asked if there's any interest that didn't go on your channel because they're too good or special or and maybe I don't mean that they've never shown up there, but things that are important to you in real life that people might not get looking at your channel.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean to go too sentimental, but like I show my family on the channel, but like that's where I spend the most of my time, with my kids. Like this morning I woke up, I built a little treehouse Lego thing with Kai, and then I played with my daughter Coco, and then I usually I don't know how your day goes, but like I like to keep it chill in that sense. Like I'm not too stressed. Like I have to be at the office at 9 in the morning, 10 in the morning, whatever. I'm just like, if I have some, and like time and something comes up, and I'll just play with Kai.
I think that is a huge benefit of having limited staff.
Yeah.
Is that no one's really relying on you to that extent or looking around and going, where the hell is this guy?
Yeah.
No one knows if you show up or not. Is that true?
No, we don't always come to the office every day. Depends on the day. Sometimes we'll just work from home and whatever. But I definitely that is a thing. Even right now, so because I have an editor, if it also my brain, it's like, well, it's a waste if my editor he might not be working right now. It's like, well, I'm just wasting the pay. Like,
what's he doing? He's watching TikTok,
which
right
I
now.
know is like absurd in a way, but there is this like, maybe I should get to the office so like I can like check up on things, make sure everything's going well, kind of thing. But yeah, I can imagine with you having a lot of people kind of waiting on you to get stuff done.
It's everything that we've already talked about.
Yeah.
It's good and bad. Like it keeps you accountable.
Yep.
And but it's also more responsibility and therefore less flexibility. It's everything in life.
Yeah.
More responsibility, less flexibility.
Yep.
You're always exchanging one thing for the other and trying to balance it all out along the way.
Do you think, or I know that, but what's the sweet spot then in a YouTube channel? Is it like having just like a nimble small crew, or is it building it out bigger so that you don't have as much stress on your
It
plate?
depends on your stress threshold.
Yeah.
I have a really weird relationship with stress where I think I'm happy with having a certain amount of it that where it makes you feel useful.
Yeah.
I think feeling useful is just huge for me. I don't know what the hell it is. Like I got into coaching with my kids and I never imagined that would matter.
Yeah.
Like I didn't think I was going to be that guy. But then I just sat there a few times watching and I was like, I'm so useless right now.
Yeah.
Why aren't I contributing something? I got so used to the idea of being productive or where it starts to feel like some kind of irresponsibility, some sort of cause similar to what you were saying about not taking advantage of the opportunity.
Yeah.
And so that's an area where I feel stress kind of serves me well because then when it's all said and done, which is never, but in limited moments, it feels more deserved when you
feel great
when you went through it. So I like maintaining a certain amount of stress, but it can totally become overwhelming as well at times. And I think the threshold really depends on the individual, and it really depends on how they work through that kind of stuff because it can be really destructive.
Yeah. I don't think people realize that there is a sweet spot for every person, every company. Like, your sweet spot is totally different from mine. Like I've even thought about, what if I just keep my channel as more just like raw and like just, basically me filming and editing it. And then my other business ventures, like those I would, hire for and have people working with me on those. Haven't really come to any conclusion on that one yet, but
Yeah.
there's all these things that I'm constantly considering. I'm sure you are too, of like, how do I make this more fun and enjoyable, but meaningful at the same time, and not like, it is that, like, you look at the glory days when I started, this was like, I had no stress. I was just like, this is amazing. Like, I'm just doing this thing. And now I'm like, I'm not naive anymore. I know too much, and I can't just make whatever and whatever. I start thinking, oh, well, that's not going to do well in the algorithm, or people aren't going to be interested in that, or whatever, Before I just made videos because I didn't know better,
Maybe that's why people watched them,
Yeah, maybe.
because they were just being made.
Yeah. What was it?
Maybe it would, because most recently I've gotten in this train of thought that the viewers have gone through exactly what you've gone through. If you feel fatigued, they feel fatigued.
Yeah.
And eventually it's going to come out. So you can keep hitting that consistency button, but ultimately it's gonna squeak out the side at some point.
Yep.
And so I would say the deep consideration on the front is to put yourself in a position where content-wise, where you are enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
And even if it's a struggle to get there, even if it means seeing some negative metrics or something like this, I think that's where I'm seeing myself going more.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's a mixture. Maybe the responsible thing is it's a mixture. Maybe there's still going to be some work you have to do. Maybe every job has something in it that you don't like. And then you go and refuel on certain things that you like better, and then you go back and pay the bills every so often.
I remember when I was like just thinking about YouTube, and then I went to Buffer Festival, the Toronto YouTube Festival thing, whatever, and I saw, I think it was Ben Brown, daily vlogger kind of guy, travel guy, and I saw his
I remember
channel.
Ben Brown. Wow, is he still doing that? He's from South Africa, right?
Yeah. Oh no, I think he's from the UK, maybe. Anyway, I don't know enough. But I remember seeing his channel. I think he had around 600,000 subs back then, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this guy just like kind of lives his life and just makes these little videos super easy, and he gets all these super cool opportunities and all this freedom. I was like, that is incredible. I want to do, like, I want that kind of thing. And then you start it and you realize that, like, it is so much work. Like, I work way more doing YouTube than I ever did freelancing, which I already thought was like, I was doing like a decent amount. I wasn't getting burnt out or anything like that. But I don't think people realize, they see your channel, they see my channel, and they're like, wow, I wish I had that. Then I would be just like, it would be easy. Life would be easy, I'd be coasting. I'd just be enjoying life. And it never happens,
No.
There is no such thing,
There's no magic trick or hack or everything. And it seems to be increasingly the case. It's like what you put in is what you get out.
Yeah.
And there's no shortcut.
Nope.
And if you perceive there potentially being one, then you're the one getting tricked.
Yeah.
And you're in for a surprise.
Yeah.
If you thought you were going to get there.
Like, I love talking about YouTube, and I've told probably like 100, no joke, 100 people at least, like, you should start a YouTube channel. Like, you do some really interesting stuff. And I'm pretty sure like maybe 2 have like started a channel and like have actually like kind of got into it. And I think a lot of it is this, like, oh, I'll just hire somebody and they'll make the videos. And it's like, no. Like, you got to learn the game. You got to learn how to film and edit. Like, you're gonna have to learn that. You can't just like hire some people to.
You gotta learn it,
stuff.
and then you don't get to put it away as some sort of certification.
Yeah, now I got this figured out.
It's that you have to be committed to learning it as long as you keep doing it.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually the crazier part, is that all the skills and things that you learn along the way, you also have to be prepared for potentially hitting reset on that way more frequently than on a typical job where you learn a certain skill set and then it stays roughly the same and you can apply that skill set permanently. There is some of that here, but it's also a complete refresh on the knowledge base and skill set all the time. So you have to be comfortable with constant change. And then on the other end of it, it's what's really important is the people that are responsible for making those changes at the platform level. And that's actually one thing that has happened from this show that actually makes me happy for having done it, which is that I heard our rep at YouTube reached out and said that a lot of people at YouTube listen to this show.
Interesting.
And because we got creators come on and talk about like what this life actually is, and this is like
getting good insights.
Data.
Yeah.
Where do I get your survey? Like what's going on with you? And once we establish a big enough data set, I think there will become some sort of a picture on whatever the human impact or insight is of this very bizarre new position that we embody.
How much do you think YouTube or any platform really takes into consideration, like, for example, the algorithm? Like, okay, we have this goal of getting more whatever, more audience, more views, whatever. We're going to do this thing. Like, what are the implications of this thing now? Or is it just that they're just looking at data? We know that this is going to be good for data. It's going to be good for a company. And then, like, let's see what happens. Or is it even maybe it's impossible to even tell that, like, what's going to actually happen?
Oh, man. It's my understanding is that nobody understands it.
Yeah.
That's my understanding. I think we're going to have, who from YouTube is going to come on this show? Do you recall, Will?
It's a chief.
Ooh, interesting.
Chief product.
He's the closest guy you're going to talk to in relationship to the algorithm.
Ooh.
But my understanding, having watched some of the stuff in the past, is that the types of tweaks that they can make and things like this are almost always have some level of experimentation.
Yeah.
Almost always they're fact-finding missions.
Yeah.
Like, let's see what happens if we do. What if we do this? What if we do that? I mean, it's interesting. It's also terrifying. It's almost the way in which we spit stuff into it.
Yeah.
It's very equivalent. It's like, let's see what the humans do. And, those humans are different humans than they were the day before. Even though they're the same humans, they just change so much because of their exposure to God knows what. In the meantime, since I've been doing this I feel, having been in it for 10 years, for sure, that transition has taken place. As I've watched enough behavioral stuff to know and to accumulate this data set of my own, that the person who started on the channel 10 years ago is not at all the same person today, and I am not at all the same person today. And increasingly, it's important to reflect on what actually is today in order to engage with it, today, as opposed to what all the baggage associated with everything you've done up until this point.
Yeah. I think it's easy to think, though, that YouTube knows what they're doing and they're doing it on purpose. I think most people think like that.
Are you getting conspiratorial right now?
I think that's how most people think, and they don't realize that, like, actually companies are just, like, trying out stuff, and then they latch onto the stuff that works, and then it,
Companies at every level. People like this, let's do more of it.
Yeah.
People hate this, let's do less of
Hey,
it.
we have this great idea, and everybody hates it. It's like, oh, shoot, okay, let's cut that.
Yes.
Happens all the time.
They like it, let's do it. They hate it, let's not.
Yeah.
And it's weird to the personalization of such things is the bizarre part, because to put yourself and your personality and identity on the line in a transaction like that, you like it when I do this, I'll do more of it. You hate it when I do this, I'll never do it again.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of creepy when it's manifested in a single person. And I think it's the reason that it becomes hard to maintain it, because it's just kind of like a weird spot to find yourself when we sort of hold ourselves accountable to certain viewpoints or morals or character traits that we consider to be permanent, even though it's probably true that you don't have all that much in common with yourself 10 years ago. It just feels like you're the same person.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's a lot to be figured out. I really appreciate you coming on here to chat. I think this
Thanks
was
for
a
having me,
great
man.
conversation, and I'd love to have you back at some point. We'll see how things are going, especially with the new venture.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I'm pretty close, so I can just,
which is a whole another crazy story. I heard you say you grew up in Finland, but then also you know somebody
Yeah.
in here because you were around the corner. You went to high school.
Yeah, I went to
somewhere
high
around
school
here?
with one of your guys.
So what's going on? Were you a world traveler at a young age?
My parents, so okay, so we're going like to the beginning.
We don't have to. I mean, we can do it next time. Let's save it for next
All
time.
right, let's save it for next time.
The key here is that you've
I'm Finnish Canadian.
You're Finnish Canadian.
Yeah,
Perfect.
dual citizen.
We'll talk more about that
Hopping back and forth.
on the next episode. Next time.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.